welcome to the Gone Gold podcast. I'm your host Simon Hill as always, and on this episode we have one of the hottest prospects in British wrestling, Tom Thelwell. We speak about how he graduated into the wrestling business, his matches with the likes of Chris Brookes, and also how he's finding time away from wrestling, spending time on his PlayStation 4 with a whole host of names from the industry. This is a great interview that you don't want to miss with such a talented young man. Check it out. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the Gone Gold podcast. Firstly, thanks for giving up some time to be here. How are you doing? How are you handling the situation at the moment? I assume you're missing wrestling, of course.
Oh yeah, man. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be like one of the first guests that you've got on here. Second of all, I'm not doing too bad. It's just one of the things. It's a bit of a rubbish situation to be in, where I'm fortunate enough to be able to spend time with my family here, like that I wouldn't usually get to spend, whether it's like going out to wrestling shows or whether I'm at work. So I'm just fortunate to be able to spend time with my family. But on the other half of it, it is rubbish because I was used to going out 4 or 5 times a week, whether it be training or going to shows or even like little things like going to the gym. Like not being able to do that, it's a bit rubbish, but it's one of them things. I imagine there's people out there that have got it way worse, so it's just one of them things that you've got to find the positives in a situation like this. How are you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm trying to stay productive myself. Definitely missing the gym because there's just like yourself. Although not necessarily in the ring, gym's a lifestyle, isn't it? You know, it's one of those where you kind of breathe into it, and that is my biggest miss. And I live in a totally different part of the country to all of my family. I live in London, and my family live up in Birmingham, and I haven't seen any of them for around 6 to 7 weeks now.
Yeah, so brutal,
that's been the toughest part for sure. But you know, like I said, we got to stay positive.
Just enjoying the little things, isn't it?
Yeah,
at the end of
absolutely.
The day, you just got to find the positives in the smallest places.
Yeah, and I mean, between the podcast and various other projects that I've got going on, I've actually found time, Tom, to pick up my PlayStation and play some games.
That's. Oh, we'll come to that later on. But the PlayStation 4 has brought me. I've recently got it as well. I've had it for about 3 weeks, and the level of entertainment that's brought me is I can't even explain. But we'll go on to that bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into Tom Thelwell, the wrestler. So, first of all, obviously you graduated from Manchester Pro Wrestling Academy, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you've at such a young age already. You've been in the ring with some of the best the UK has to offer. Chris Brookes, one of the most memorable names and one of the most impactful names in British wrestling at the moment. Obviously, he's gone off to Japan. But, you know, the likes of Mad Kurt, Big Guns Joe and Ethan Allen are your friends. So how has wrestling been for Tom Thelwell at such a young age?
Oh, well, I'm not gonna step around it. It's been very hard. Like, I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it was, but I feel like I kind of made it difficult in a sense because I wanted to be at such a high stage as early as possible to try and make a difference. Because when I first started training, it was rare to see a younger guy like me, like Ethan, like Luke, like Joe Nelson to be at that sort of stage. Yeah. So I was training 3 or 4 times a week. I started training when I was 14 with Xander Cooper when it was known as the Future Shock Academy. I was training under, like I say, Xander Cooper, Damon Lee, Sonna, like all those sort of people. So I had a good little group of trainers at that point. So I was training like 4 or 5 times a week because I knew what I wanted. Like being there, it was like the first time I ever stepped into the ring and took my first bump. That was like when I knew what I wanted to do, what I wanted to go on to do. So I was training 4 or 5 times a week. I started to branch out a little bit more. I went to train at Fighting Spirit with Zach Gibson and James Drake, who are obviously now signed to NXT. Wrestle Pro, and now the new Future Shock Academy with Sam Bailey. I did a little bit at NGW with Nathan Cruz, which nice. He's one of the best trainers I've had. Honestly, I learned so much with Cruiser. But yeah, I think it was just under 2 years into my training that I made my debut for Future Shock, and it was the most nervous I've ever been. It was me, Carl Stocks, and Philip Michael versus Crater in a 3-on-1 handicap match, and it's the most nervous I've ever been, but one of the most happiest moments of my career. Honestly, I couldn't stop smiling.
So since your debut, obviously nearly 2 years ago now, how have you found that transition to where Tom Thelwell is today? What has been the development process? Has there been plenty of trial and error to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, so the main thing, like, if you were to ask me, you can go to shows and to help out, but you've got to be willing to travel and put in the effort to go places. So usually, if I'm not booked on a show, I'll be messaging around to everyone asking if there's a spare seat going in a car, or I'll be messaging a promoter asking if there's a spot free on a show, because I think that's one of the most important things that you can do if you try to branch yourself out in in a business like wrestling. So usually we go out with Joe, Big Guns Joe. He'll usually have a space, go in his car, we'll jump in, do the obvious, shake hands with the promoter, introduce yourself, offer your help. And if a spot comes free, then that's great. You've just got to be willing to impress. But there have been times, like say, trial and error, where I have had the opportunity and it's not gone as I'd liked because I knew that I wasn't ready for a certain thing. My example that I'd give to that is when I debuted for Attack. I turned up to the show and I had my gear and I got on. And as great as an opportunity that was, I look back on that now and I know at that stage in my career I was not ready for a show like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there was more of Tom Thelwell that needed extra attention.
Yeah, and it needed a lot. And I needed to be developing. Like I just wasn't in. Obviously, like, you jump at the opportunity to do a show like that. Like what wrestler wouldn't? But deep down I knew in my head, like, I shouldn't be. I was not ready for that point. But if I was to look at it now, like, the match was with Danny Jones, who is one of the best guys out there at the moment. Like, I loved the match with him. But me watching it back now, there were so many things I'd do differently if I could just go back and do it again. Like, so many things about it that I'd change. But it's just one of those things, like you say, trial and error. Just know for next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we spoke about your match with Chris Brookes, which was at Catch's debut show. Phenomenal match, absolutely incredible. Both of you put everything into that just before Chris obviously went to Japan.
Yeah.
For someone like Chris Brookes to then turn around and in a public domain like Twitter, to turn around and say that you are the future of British wrestling, what was that feeling like for you?
Well, that one, it really like touched me in here because one of my first independent wrestling shows I went to as a fan was Progress in Manchester, and CCK were like the opener on that show. Obviously CCK, Chris Brookes and Kid Lycos.
Yeah.
And Chris has always been a guy that I've looked up to, like whether it be training or as a fan. I remember like buying his merch before shows and stuff like that. And then to be given the opportunity to wrestle him was like the biggest point of my career. Like, I knew like this is kind of like a make or break point for me. I've got to prove why I'm able to hang around with like the bigger guys, if you know what I mean. So being in the ring with him was incredible. I learned so much off him, just like from the way he moves to the way like he helps plan. Just him, just learning so much from him. I was obviously after the match, like you do, you pick apart like little things, like things that you could have done better. But overall, I was really happy with it. Like the feedback that I got from everyone, the feedback that I got from Chris, everything was great. But then seeing, I don't know whether it was the day after that he put that tweet out about me. Honestly, just it really touched me because someone that I looked up to for so long in wrestling feels that I could potentially be the future of British wrestling. That honestly, it means a lot for me. I can't thank him enough. I'm so happy to see him out there now killing it in Japan.
Oh, he's a phenomenal athlete. Almost a freak of nature. He's incredible.
Incredible.
And there's only going to be good things coming from to people like that, but also people like yourself, Tom. I mean, I've seen in action, and we've crossed paths quite a few times, and everyone always talks about Tom Thelwell this, Tom Thelwell that. You are a talent in the ring. There's a lot of Shawn Michaels and X-Pac crossover in you. Were they some of your influences?
I've never heard that one before.
No, it was a conversation that a couple of us were having backstage at a show,
And he kind of came to this conclusion of a Shawn Michaels X-Pac kind of hybrid almost.
Oh, right, okay, cool. Well, obviously, I started watching wrestling a little bit later on. So like when I was a kid, like I used to watch it with like my dad or whatever. But I went on to football, so I never really I skipped like a massive chunk of it, and I came back to it just before Mania 29. So that was when I started. That's when I really like fell in love with it, if you will. So the guys that I always looked up to were obviously like your Cenas, but John Morrison, Edge, like people like that. They were always the people that I like massively idolized, just because of like their characters. Like John Morrison was always the guy that I wanted to be. Just how he wrestled and how just how he looked and the way he moved, like just ridiculous. Because I've always been captivated by like the high flying style. Like everyone knows my inspiration now is Will Ospreay. Everyone knows that. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I don't get how he can do that sort of stuff. I'd love to be able to do that sort of stuff, but I know I never will be able to. It's just one of the things that you've got to accept. He is like a freak of nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in terms of the people that I think inspired me were John Morrison was a big part of it. Christian was a big part of it. Just like their move sets, the way that they styled themselves. Rey Mysterio. There was a lot of different inspirations, but I've never heard Shawn Michaels or X-Pac. That's the first. That's caught me by surprise, that one.
Yeah, no, it was one of those conversations where there was a couple of people chipping in, and I think it was me that mentioned Shawn Michaels. Someone mentioned X-Pac. I think Christian was mentioned, and I can actually see that in you now. Actually, there's
cool.
certain ways that you move, and I think the fluidity. That you kind of mirror off someone like Christian and Edge, and certainly he's you can tell it's in the brain kind of thing. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean they're great guys to be influenced by. Is whilst you were planning getting into wrestling, you were training. Was it one of those guys in particular that you wanted to mold yourself around, or was it just okay? I'm going to be Tom Thelwell, but I'm going to kind of look at their style for this style for that.
So with me in wrestling, this is one thing that people will tell me a lot, is that it took me a long time to sort of find myself.
Yeah.
So whether it was me doing someone else's move or me very noticeably styling myself off someone, I was doing that for quite a long time up until recently, where I've managed to kind of hit the nail on the head and find myself a little bit more. So when I was training, it was very much like Dean Ambrose was the inspiration in training. Kenny Omega was the inspiration in training. Partially Ospreay when I was trying to do that sort of stuff, but then accepted that I couldn't do that sort of stuff. Those were all the inspirations, but then I realised that you can do all those sort of things, but try and put your own little twist on it, because that's how you find yourself. And it's one of the things that unfortunately you can't. It does take a while to happen. Unfortunately, you can't just like click your fingers and I found myself. It does take a while, but I feel like I've had all the right help in trying to find myself. I had people giving me the right advice, the best trainers that I could have asked for. So fingers crossed, I've kind of gotten into myself a little bit more now. Like I'll do things my way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of people may not know, from the British wrestling scene, you're very good mates with the Young Guns, Ethan Allen, Luke Jacobs, as you mentioned, Joe Nelson, Kid Like Us too, and Big Guns Joe as well. You guys all travel together, you go to shows together, you train and things like that. How is it kind of hanging out with those guys who are all kind of on the same journey as you? You're all young guys, you're all passionate, making your marks in various different promotions and across the country at the moment. Is this something that you guys use as momentum and motivation from each other?
Oh yeah, man. So they're like the best mates like that I have in the business. I love them all for different reasons. So me, Luke and Ethan, we all started training up a very similar time. I imagine quite a lot of people would associate us together because whenever them two are at a show, I'm there. Most of the time when I'm at a show, they're there. We trained up together. I look up to them a lot. I've looked up to them since like very, very early on, because them two were sort of in a position that I was in. Them two were very young, and they kind of needed to make an impression, and they did from the second they debuted. Lycos too, Joe Nelson. I met him fairly later on into the career, and then we became mates off that. Honestly, he's like the youngest veteran you could ever meet.
Yeah,
just the way he is. He's been around for so long. Honestly, Joe Nelson. People say he's the future, but he's the present. Joe Nelson, he's incredible,
phenomenal,
man. Yeah,
phenomenal. And recently in the ring with the likes of Ace Austin, phenomenal.
Yeah, Joe's killing it, man. Honestly, I've got so much respect and time for Joe Nelson.
And still only 18.
So much. No, he's 17, I think.
17.
Yeah, he's a few months older than me. He's killing it, man. There's so many things that he's done from an early age. Honestly, I can all keep saying it, but the respect I have for him is second to none. And then Big Joe, Big Joe's helped me out so much, whether it's been taking me to places, bringing me to training, giving me advice, and we all know he's a character.
Yeah,
Big Guns Joe. He's one of the funniest guys you could meet. But yeah, honestly, all of them together, I love them all. They're my best mates. But in terms of them helping me, all of them are so young and they've done so much in the last year or so. That gives me something to push towards. Me as the youngest in the group, it's kind of so when I'm at that age, that's where I want to be.
Yeah,
I want to push myself to be at that level. Obviously putting my own little spin on things, but they kind of inspire me to push myself to be at their level. If you get what I mean, it's a weird way of explaining it. But
no, absolutely, no, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, and for you being at such a young age now, Tom, already stepping in the ring with the people that you have done, and learning so much and so fast, the energy with you is always electric. Excuse the pun of the rock there, but
thank you.
Is it one of those where you're constantly developing, and every day is a school day, for you, and you're building that character, you're building that repertoire of moves, and the presence you have in a ring.
Yeah. So I think every wrestler would do that in a sense, because I don't go a day without watching some form of wrestling. Every day there is wrestling in my life, whether it's scrolling through Facebook and seeing something and that kind of oh, that's pretty cool, I'll save that and come back to that later, or whether it's watching Raw, SmackDown, AEW, NXT, whatever it may be that you're watching, there'll always be something that you'll catch inspiration off. You'll see someone do something and you'll be like, oh, I wonder if anyone else does that. Could I put my own spin on it, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think every day I try and learn something new. I try and save something that I can come back to at a later date, whether it be, like I say, a move or facial expression, or something like facial expressions, or like little notes or tips I'd make from someone doing promos or something like that. But yeah, I never stop learning with wrestling. There's always a day that I'll learn something.
That's impressive, man. It's good to see the mentality you've got at such a young age. Now, obviously, you've wrestled across the country, several different promotions.
Thank you.
Is there a country in particular that your long-term goal takes you to? Would you like to wrestle in Japan, Mexico? Obviously, the US is a big one. Where's the future passion and some of the experiences that you really want to experience in wrestling?
So, honestly, I want to go everywhere. Traveling's always something that's captivated me. I'd love to travel. Being able to travel and wrestle is a big dream. Whether it be Ireland, I've never had the opportunity to wrestle in Ireland, but I went to go to the OTT show that the Young Guns were on. I went to that one and I did my part helping out there. And
Nice.
Getting to be in the atmosphere of one of the OTT shows is incredible. The Irish fans are insane.
Yeah,
and they've got some of the nicest guys over there. Honestly, whether it be More Than Hype, Scotty Davis, all them guys, class guys over there. And then being able to go to Mexico, Japan, America, like I say, that's a big dream as well. I always call it the AJ Styles route, because Styles went everywhere and then finished at the top. So if I could do that, then that'd be dream come true. But I'll go anywhere, man. Honestly. anywhere.
There you go. You've heard it. Book Tom Thelwell, Mexico, Crash. Come on, Japan DDT.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. We'll get there.
No, we mentioned your hobbies at the moment whilst we're in lockdown. So obviously you've been doing a bit of home workout to try and keep that muscle mass going for when wrestling returns.
I'm trying.
But you've also been, you've grabbed yourself a PlayStation. You're binging on Disney, Netflix.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's all I really can do, to be honest. But I'm just going to say really quickly, in terms of like the home workout stuff, the best person to go to, in my opinion, is Train with Nush.
Yes.
He's got a lot of us on this 36-week physique program. And if you look at the best example I'm going to give is Big Guns Joe, Callum Corrie, the wrestler Rio. If you can look at the difference that Nush has managed to make in those guys in such I think Joe's not even gone past half of it yet, and he already looks insane.
Yeah.
The way he looks compared to when he started is ridiculous. So everyone go and check out Train with Nush, because the differences that he can make is ridiculous. Honestly, he's so good.
He's phenomenal, and some of the ways that he teaches you to manipulate your muscle is incredible, phenomenal.
It is incredible. The way that when we found out about the isolation, he had the home workout videos with us in a few days. Like he was already ready for it. Like honestly, he's one of the best in Nush. Honestly,
so definitely worth checking him out for your home workout.
100%.
I got taught a really, really good one. So I'm good friends with Mecha Wolf, who's at Crash in Mexico, and he taught me this. So he said like something basic, right? If you got a 52 deck of cards. So each suit, you pick a workout and whatever card you're. By the end of it, you should be doing around 400 reps if you're doubling things up as well. And I was like, that is phenomenal. And you notice the difference, like just doing those constantly, and it'll take a good hour, but you notice the difference, and it's a really sweaty workout. So even the smallest things you can find around home can really help you out.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. That like the deck of cards. That brings me back to like very early on in Future Shot training when we'd find out that DDL Damon Lee was taking training. And you knew you were in for the warm up of a lifetime, because he'd always even make you do 10s, which was so you do 10 press ups, 10 squats, 10 leg raises, and I think 10 burpees, and you do 2 laps around the mats, 9 press ups, 9 squats. You just keep going. Oh, he knew how to kill you. DDL knew how to kill you with stuff like that.
And that was just your warm up.
Yeah. But honestly, some of the best sessions were with Damon. The most, I've not got a bad thing to say about Damon. I love Damon. It's great.
No, great guy. Really is. Very knowledgeable.
100%, man. Yeah, he's one of the biggest veterans going. Like, I'm sure he was on like the first ever Future Shock show, and he's still going now. And the talent that he's got is ridiculous. Love Damon. Big shout out to DDL.
There you go. We'll make sure we'll tag him in this when this gets put out. So kind of going back to the daily activities of Tom Thelwell at the moment, considering you're not travelling the country wrestling. Tell me what you've been doing with your PS4.
Oh, right. So here we go. So at the moment, I'm very into a bit of an obvious one, GTA.
Yeah.
Trying to get heists done on that. Me and Luke have been destroying the heists, earning a big amount of money over there. But in terms of what I play with the boys, it's the new COD.
Yeah.
So we've been playing like I don't know if it's Modern Warfare or Advanced Warfare, one of the two. I didn't really know. I just opened it and put the disc in, to be honest. So we're doing squads on that. It's usually like me, Ethan, Joe Nelson, Joe Bolton, and Derice. Sometimes Miles Kamen. So we'll all be squadding on that. And it's nice because it's good to still be able to spend time with them and speak to them outside of like wrestling.
Derice is such a character as well.
Oh my god, he is. he is ridiculous. There's no splitting the gimmick. Man like Derice and Derice Gordon are the same person.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Derice on an after party. I think it was the FCP one after I was DJing there, and then we ended up getting Joe Nelson was there actually, and Derice is just one of those guys. The second he walks into a room, the whole room stops.
Oh yeah, but he's one of the nicest guys going, man. Honestly, he knows how to make everyone smile. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And he's so talented, so talented.
Brilliant.
He's
The whole 0-1-2-1 gimmick is phenomenal, though.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Like the 0-1-2-1 itself, like Dan Maloney is one of the people that I strive to wrestle at some point soon. I think Dan and Dries together are incredible. But if I could wrestle them both in solos, I've not had the chance to do that yet. But if I could wrestle them both in singles matches, I'd be a very, very happy boy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I think Dan Maloney still only 23 as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's incredible to think that he's only
champion,
23.
Man.
Yeah, he's got a big future. But yeah, so you're teaming up with these guys on Call of Duty. Are you playing Warzone? Are you dropping in on just random maps, dominations?
Well, we love a bit of hardcore kill confirmed. That's a bit of me, Joe Bolton, and Liam Carr. We'll always love a bit of hardcore kill confirmed. But yeah, we'll do whatever. When there's more of us, we'll just be doing domination or whatever. But if there's just a little group of us and we fancy a challenge, we'll do the Warzone Battle Royale sort of thing. Blood Money's quite good as well. I recently discovered Blood Money. That's a nice little mode that I've only recently found, because I bashed out myself the Battle Royale.
Oh right.
Just saying as well, Miles came as one of the best people to play Battle Royale with, because I swear to God, Miles is incredible at Call of Duty. Like
I need to give you my PSN, man, because you sound like you've got some serious squads going on here.
Oh, brother, shoot me a name. Honestly, we'll get us all on. Like the average amount of kills for like a hardcore kill confirmed, I've been told, is like 17, 19. Miles is getting like high 40s every time.
Wow.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, man.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So when Tom Thelwell isn't playing Call of Duty, what's he doing?
Just trying to spend a lot of time with family, man. Like out in the garden, doing all sorts of stuff. There isn't much to do, to be honest, apart from playing PS4. Obviously, we've already covered the home workouts. I'm very big into horror films.
Oh, okay, so, nice. Yeah, any recent recommendations?
The film Us has just come on Sky TV.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that. The ending was a bit strange, but
definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. No spoilers, but I found it very enjoyable. And then there's a film. It's quite old, but I recently watched it on Netflix. It's called Quarantine. It's quite fitting.
Yeah,
quite fitting for this point. But it's a very good film. Yeah, it's just getting to rewatch some of my old favourites though, like The Strangers. Insidious was like a big favourite of mine. One of the first ones that I watched, and I loved it since. But just doing stuff like that, getting to go and watch horror films, spend as much time with family as possible. Speak to friends that I wouldn't usually speak to, like friends from my high school or college that I've not spoken to in quite a while.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, just trying to enjoy the little things, man.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's important as well, because although we're kind of all in this together, it's about trying to keep positive, motivated, and
100%.
Stay together, stay as one, and then once all this is over, we'll appreciate everything a lot more than
100%.
We probably did. I'm certainly missing a hell of a lot, including the likes of the gym, obviously the wrestling, and hosting various stage shows and whatnot. But it's my family that I haven't been able to see for 7 weeks.
Yeah, it's rough, man.
So, but we'll all appreciate that. We'll come out stronger for the experience for sure.
Just fingers crossed that it's over soon. Just fingers crossed, that's all we can do. Just hope that it's over soon and we can get back to doing what we love. Because if you ask me, a life without wrestling isn't a very fun one.
No.
A life without a gym is a very fun one. And for you, I imagine missing your family is like hitting hard. So fingers crossed we'll be sorted soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after these 3 weeks, hopefully, if things are getting back to normal, we can all kind of reevaluate and, get everything back on track. And I'm looking forward to kind of, seeing you guys again down at some of the shows.
Yeah, man, 100%.
I'm looking forward to closing out the year with some incredible shows. I really am. And, one thing that, I've been asking everyone, Tom, on every episode so far, because I kind of got this idea after spending time in the car with the likes of Clint Margera, Chris Ridgway, etc. Is everyone's got a very unique music taste. Now, Chris Ridgway loves some 80s, currently 70s, and Shania Twain. He loves karaoke to Shania Twain. So when we were in the car, I was like, right, what music? Expecting maybe some punk rock or something like that. Oh, let's put some Shania Twain on, right? And he sang like note for note, Shania Twain, I Feel Like a Woman, which was hilarious.
Oh
Clint
my
Margera
god.
is another one. So we went for a 3 hour drive on the way back from Liverpool from a show to drop him off, and yeah, he was singing the likes of like Billy Talent and the Used, so very unique. And then you got Big Guns Joe who occasionally listens to the 80s and that sort of cheesy stuff. Yeah, so
Joe's music taste is incredible. So the sort of things that we listen to on the way home from the car, like, I don't know whether people are seeing it on the Instagram stories or what, but we love a bit of High School Musical. We love a bit of camp rock, all that stuff. That's what we jam to on the way home from shows, all that sort of stuff, all the classics.
So all the classic High School Musicals. Who's got the best voice in the car?
Me. 100% me.
You do know I'm gonna get Big Guns Joe to record that happening, and I'm gonna put it on a podcast.
Oh yeah, well let's do it. We'll do it together. We'll get the rest of them on here.
We'll do our very own carpool karaoke.
100. This is happening.
Style. Yeah,
this is happening.
We're organising it.
Ethan's voice isn't too bad. Ethan's more the dancer.
Oh, is
the
it?
Group. Yeah. Joe gets the high notes. If there's ever like a high note coming in the song that needs a good build up, that's Joe's job. But I reckon I'm just like the backing singer. Just I'll keep going all the way through it. Luke doesn't really sing unless it's a bit of Phil Collins. Luke loves a bit of Phil Collins. He does.
Does it? Yeah, I was going to say the only person I can't imagine busting out some high notes is actually Luke.
Yeah. Every now and again we'll get a cheeky little high note out of him. Every now and again, but it's a rare occasion. It's a rare occasion, bless him.
He's a great guy, Luke. I do love chatting to him. Right, Tom. Firstly, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast. Man. I really appreciate it. We've had a great chat, and I really can't wait. You know, as Chris Brookes said, by the end of this year to see where Tom Thelwell is, because I think it is true, and it's not me kissing your ass or anything, but I think you are one of the most gifted wrestlers the British wrestling scene has seen in a long time.
Oh, thank you, man. Honestly, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you
for you, man. So yeah, again, thank you for coming on, dude, and I can't wait to catch up with you at the next show.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for having me on. Take care. Stay indoors.
Yeah.
You all need to stay indoors.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on, man. No, it's been my pleasure.